today I want to go over the MPC workflow in general, especially for sample-based production. Now, I've done videos on this topic where I'm showing how I sample and this button does this and that. That's cool. But in this video, I actually want to focus a little more on why I do certain things and also a little bit on the MPC terminology. I promise you that once you understand the terminology or the language of the MPC, everything's gonna click, everything's gonna make sense, and everything's just gonna come a little more natural. So in this video, I wanna go over 5 elements that I'm using that I honestly always use when I'm putting together a sampled based beat on the MPC Live, MPC One, and this is also gonna work on the MPCX. Now, these 5 elements that I'm gonna go over is not gonna be showing you how to do it, but why I'm using these 5 elements to put together this sampled based beat. Now, diving into the drums. The drums, this is actually a very important part of the process. I highly recommend, if you guys have not watched the latest video, I go over 5 different tips on how I program my drums. Somebody like me that I don't have this natural groove to me, I use these 5 methods that help me program these drums. If you guys have not watched it, make sure you guys check it out. But I really want to go over right now on my drum selection and why I chose these drums and kind of summarized on how I programmed them on my grid editor. I'll go ahead and go to my drums and solo the drums, and let's hear what I have. Now, these drums right here, I have to go ahead and plug this in. I have not talked about it, but it is a project that I'm working on. This is part of my first sample pack that I'm working on. These are actual live drums recorded in New Monkey Studio out in Van Nuys, California. It sounds amazing, and the gear that they have right there is awesome gear. We ran all of our live drums through a tape machine so we can add some character, and I wanted to go ahead and distort and just explore the sound of recording drums. So this is all part of that sample pack that I'm building. I'm not done with it. I'm still testing it out and trying it out as I'm building and producing beats, just so I can get comfortable with all these sounds. That was the main idea of this sample pack, just capturing the raw sound of drums. Now, I'll definitely be letting you guys know once the sample pack is ready, but you could go ahead and pre-order this sample pack. So make sure you guys go down in the description and you guys can actually place a pre-order. So as soon as it's finished, it's out to you. Now, with the drums, what I'm doing is I'm just quantizing the downbeat of the kick, the boom, and then it comes back to the bar, and then boom. I'm just quantizing those down beats, and everything else, the hi-hats, the snare, the ghost kicks, those are all freely not quantized. So it kind of adds the downbeat on time, but everything else is a little loose, and it kind of has my natural groove to it. And another thing I want to mention is on the snare, again, I'm going to kind of talk about the sample pack that I'm building. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to build this sample pack, is because it's not the same snare being used. This is my main snare. I also have that same snare with a different timbre, just so I can add variation as I'm laying down these samples. Now, these little change-ups are not gonna be noticeable. The listener is not gonna point that out, but it's something that we can feel, and that to me is a lot more important to be able to achieve a feeling more than a cool sounding snare being repeated over and over. And yes, it is an 8-bar loop, which is pretty long, but the way I do this, I don't perform this entire 8-bar section all live. What I do, I just perform 1 bar and I perfect that bar, and I copy that section, or I'm sorry, I'll copy that 1 bar, hit shift, copy, and then I'll paste it, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I paste that along the 8 bars, I'll go into those and change it up a little bit and add and take away. So I have fun working like that. That's my way of working and building my drums. But again, everybody's different. Some people might not stand that workflow, but I enjoy it. sample is actually a sample that I chose from one of your guys' recommendations in our Discord. If you guys are not in our Discord channel, I'll leave a link down in the description. Make sure you guys join it. There's a lot of awesome inspiration with sample links. So it's awesome. It's super fun. So make sure you guys join that channel. Now, this sample is filled up from bank A all the way to bank D. And as you guys will notice that there's some colors that I'm using. And I love color coding my pads, especially when I'm filling up all my banks, because it could be a little confusing as I'm sequencing my pattern, and then I want to bank through and I'm like, man, where was those other chops? I'm only trying to look for 3 other chops, and it could be a little confusing. So what I've been doing lately is just go to menu, and then you go to your pad colors, and right here you could assign different colors to different pads. Like in this case, the yellow pads up here, this was my main sample. This is what this foundation, or this beat is founded on. It's just looping. But I don't want to repeat that because it gets very repetitive. So I'm banking over and using some other chops that I felt like clicked with that, which is actually on bank B, and is these bottom 3 pads. So I'm pretty much just going. And then banking back to these yellow ones. But it's helping me stay organized. Now I have these orange pads right here, as I'm only using these pads at the ending of my 4th bar. So on the 4th bar in beat 3, as we go into the grid editor, and then I jump right into it. Now, this pad right here on bank A, I have this, actually I had it red, but I accidentally colored it orange right now. But I'm only using that one pad as that last beat at the ending of the 4th bar, just to boom, and it comes right back into the beat. So as you guys can see, I'm banking through. I'm using all different pads, different places, so it could be very confusing. So if you have a similar workflow, I highly recommend to color code your pads, as it helps to be more organized. Another thing I want to go over is, as you guys can hear, on the ending of bar 4 in beat 3, I have this one pad, which is in bank A. This pad is different from my entire program, because this one I added like a lo-fi filter on just that one pad, not on the entire program, just on this one pad. It like wobbles, and there's like low pass filter only on that one pad, and then it jumps into the regular sound. The way I'm doing that, if you go to your menu, into your program editor, in your program editor, I'm going into my envelopes, and on my envelope, before I add a low pass filter, you want to make sure you hit this little eyeball droplet or this little icon and go from all to current. If you just want to affect one pad, not the entire program. You might be on all, but if you add an LFO, it's going to affect the entire program. You want to just go to that current pad, and you have to select which pad you want to add that effect to. In this case, it's going to be this pad. Hit close, and then I bang through to the second page on this envelope, and I added this low pass filter. I cut off all the way to 106. And then after that, I'm going to the LFO, and I have this on 8th note triplet, and I have the pitch at 4%. So it's at 4%, and my filter is at about 7%. That's pretty cool, actually. But I leave it at 7%. And now this is honestly something that I use. Man, I love this on the MPC, is Mother Ducker, is a sidechain compression that I cannot compare this to anything else. Ableton has his compressor with sidechain, is not as good as what you'll get on the MPC. The Mother Ducker on the MPC is the best sidechain compression I've ever heard. And the way I'm adding this is that on my drums, I go to this little eyeball icon. this opens up this page. And right now I'm selected on my entire drum program, but I want to go to the single pad. So I'll select just the single pad. And I'm going to grab my main kick, which is right here on pad 5. Actually, no, it's on pad 1. And on pad 1, I'm adding on this insert mother ducker input. And then I go to my actual sample. And on my sample, I go from single pad to the entire program. And on the entire program, I go to my inserts and I'm adding mother ducker. So it kind of gives me that pumping effect that I enjoy when I'm building my beats. It's not that noticeable, but is actually there. So those 5 elements that I covered with you, those are my go-to tools that I use whenever I'm building a sample-based beat production on the MPC. Now, there's a lot of other tools that I'm probably not covering here. And yes, I do use other workflows, but those are my 5 go-to tools that I'm using on the MPC-1, MPC Live, and I'm sure you can use this also on the MPC-X. If you guys want to check out more content, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and also hit the thumbs up. I'll catch y'all on our next video. Peace.